The headlines scream, H1B visa fees hiked by a staggering $100,000. Indian techies will pay the price. Until now, the government fees for a new H1B were just a few $1,000s. With this surcharge, the cost has skyrocketed overnight. The first instinct might be outsourcing, but for countless techies, especially Indians, on-site in the U.S. remains the ultimate dream, not just a paycheck, but an escape from the dysfunction of a third-world mess into the promise of a Western democracy. Career, green card, life. And history shows one thing. Every time Washington puts up a roadblock, Silicon Valley finds a side street. So today, let's peel back the curtain on the loopholes tech companies can and will use to outsmart the H1B fee hike. And to understand how this game is played, we need to look back. Because this isn't the first time America tried to tighten the gates. And it won't be the last.
The history of outsmarting the system.
Take the 1970s. The U.S. economy was booming. Tech firms were hungry for engineers. And yet immigration policy was anything but open. The Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965 had replaced the old national origins quotas with a global system, but it imposed a strict 20,000 per country cap on green cards. That number covered family visas as well as skilled workers, leaving little room for employers who wanted talent from India. And the H-1B didn't even exist yet. It would only be created in 1990. So what did American companies do? They leaned on the student visa loophole. For companies like IBM, Texas Instruments, and Bell Labs, hungry for engineers, this pipeline was perfect. They tapped a growing stream of IIT-trained talent coming through U.S. grad programs. Studies show that in the 1970s, nearly 1 in 3 IIT Bombay graduates moved overseas, while only about 1 in 14 engineers from other Indian colleges did the same. One example is IIT Delhi's Krishan K. Sabnani, who earned a PhD at Columbia and joined Bell Labs in 1981. Many of those students later transitioned to green cards through employer sponsorship, quietly bypassing the bottlenecks of the 1965 Immigration Act quotas. And it wasn't only engineers. Indian doctors and medical graduates also became part of this wave. In the 1960s and 70s, America faced a serious physician shortage, especially in rural areas. Thousands of Indian doctors entered through exchange visitor programs and hospital residencies. By 1976, roughly 9,000 Indian doctors were practicing in the U.S., forming one of the largest foreign-trained medical communities. Like their engineering peers, hospitals and universities often sponsored them for green cards, allowing these doctors to step around the 20,000 per country cap. What began as temporary residency training became a permanent migration pathway. History tells us one thing: if there's a wall, there's always a ladder. And in the 1970s, those ladders were F1 visas and hospital residencies, turning students and trainees into America's long-term engineers and doctors. But here's the twist. That game of ladders never stopped. In fact, it only got sharper, riskier, and more creative. And today, there are 4 big loopholes every tech giant knows. And you need to know if you want to understand how Indians still make it to America. Stick with me till the end, because the last one is the most powerful, and the one Silicon Valley really doesn't talk about.
Loophole 1. Body Shopping 2.0.
By the 1990s, the playbook had evolved. Indian staffing firms learned to act like invisible engines for American tech. They filed the visas, flew the workers in, and then leased them out to big clients. That practice picked up the nickname body shopping. What made it attractive then also makes it tempting now. It shifts who pays and how the cost looks on the books. Here's why companies might lean on this after the H-1B fee hike. If a tech giant hires directly, it has to swallow the new one-time $100,000 fee. But if a staffing firm hires the worker instead, that firm pays the visa costs and then rents the worker to the big company by the hour. Think of it like a drone camera. You don't buy a $10,000 drone just to use it a few times. You rent it when you need the shots. For the tech giant, it's the same logic. Why pay a fortune up front when you can simply rent the talent by the hour? But here's the catch. Uncle Sam is watching. Audits, raids, and fines make sure body shopping doesn't turn into body dodging. The $100,000 fee only raises the stakes. It doesn't kill the ladders, it just forces companies to build them smarter.
Loophole 2. The Commute base rumor.
Next up, the idea people whisper about at conferences. Build a base just outside the U.S., park engineers there, and fly them across the border for 2-week sprints when the client needs them. It sounds like clever bookkeeping. Fewer new H-1Bs on the payroll, smaller headline costs, and work that still gets done in the U.S. Companies are already thinking geographically. Nearshoring hubs in Mexico and the Caribbean are booming because they cut costs, shorten time zones, and simplify collaboration. Corporates can lawfully hire local talent in those countries to run projects that don't require U.S. visas. That's legitimate nearshoring, not a secret hack. The trouble starts when firms blur that line, turning short business visits into disguised full-time work. Short-term trips may sound clever, but turn them into regular labor, and the watchdogs pounce. In the visa game, what looks like a shortcut can quickly turn into a very expensive detour.
Loophole 3. The OPT to H-1B pipeline.
The third ladder is one of the oldest in the playbook, the student-to-worker pipeline. Meet the F-1 student visa and its cousin, the optional practical training, or OPT, work permit. Together, they form a backdoor highway into the U.S. job market. Here's how it works. Students come to America for graduate studies, most often in STEM fields. Once they graduate, they can work for 12 months under OPT. If their degree is in science, technology, engineering, or math, they get an additional 24-month STEM extension. That's 3 full years of legal employment before a company even has to think about sponsoring them for an H-1B. For firms like Google, Amazon, or startups hungry for young coders, this is ideal. They get fresh talent from India's IITs and engineering colleges, trained at U.S. universities, and available immediately without the 6-figure H-1B fee. And when the 3 years are up, the company can file for an H-1B then. At that point, the $100,000 surcharge is just another line item in the budget. Spread out over 3 years of productivity, it's barely a bump. This is why nearly 70% of all OPT approvals in recent years have gone to Indian and Chinese students, and why universities lobby so hard to keep OPT alive. For companies, it isn't a hike, it's just a delay. And for the students, OPT isn't just training, it's the on-ramp to a long-term American career.
Loophole 4. The L1 visa trick.
And now to the corporate favorite, the L1 intra-company transfer visa. Why pay $100,000 for a brand new H-1B when you can move your own employee on an L1 for just a couple of thousand? The math is brutal. With the new surcharge, a fresh H-1B petition runs well over $1 lakh US. The same worker on an L1? About $2,500. And here's the kicker. There's no lottery, no quota, and no prevailing wage paperwork. The only rule is that the employee must have worked at the company's overseas office for at least 1 year in the past 3. Big Tech knows this playbook. Some even use blanket Ls, which let them transfer dozens of employees at once, like a conveyor belt of talent. While the headlines scream H1B crackdown, Silicon Valley is quietly ordering off the secret menu. The government knows it exists, but most people don't. So, the H1B fee hike may sound like a death knell for Indian techies, but history and corporate ingenuity tells us otherwise. The loopholes are many, the incentives are high, and when America needs its code written at 2 a.m., the price tag won't matter. Because on the chessboard of immigration, politicians make the rules. But tech companies always find the next move. You've been watching Whispering Peepal. If you enjoy these deep dives into history, politics, and society, make sure to subscribe and join the conversation. Until next time, keep questioning, keep listening.